What's up guys, and welcome to Drive Steady. In today's video we're going to compare specs of the 2020 BMW M340i against the competitive 2020 Genesis G70 3.3T and share what really surprised me about the Genesis G70 and why I think the BMW is still the best in its class. Before getting started, a big thank you to you and everyone who watches our videos. If this is the first time you're stopping by, please consider subscribing to stay up to date with all of our content, and don't forget to check us out on Instagram as well. Now let's get to business, the BMW M340i and the Genesis G70. It was so funny, I still found myself typing in Hyundai G70 during my initial research of the G70, and I need to get used to Genesis now being its own brand. Anyway, the G70 came out in 2018 and was a direct competitor to the BMW 3 Series. It was a brave move by Genesis to enter this extremely competitive segment of compact sedans where the Mercedes C-Class, the Audi A-Class, and the BMW 3 Series have been going at it for decades. Speaking of the 3 Series, it's widely renowned as the leader in this group because of its ability to play multiple characters so well. It's typically the fastest and sportiest car of the bunch, and also doesn't fall short in the luxury and comfort sections either. The interesting thing about the G70 is that while some of the other competition like Mercedes and Audi have been around for some time now and have kind of started to appeal to different types of audiences, the G70 is trying to be exactly like the 3 Series. Where some would say the 3 Series has lost some of its sportiness throughout the decades, the G70 tries to bring it back. So let's see how it measures up against the M340i. A point of reference prior to starting is that I'll be comparing the M340i trim against the G70 with the 3.3-liter turbo engine, and I'm going to take a different approach here as I'm going to start with the pricing instead of the engines, which I'll get to a little bit later. The BMW M340i comes in at $54,995, which includes destination and handling in a rear-wheel drive platform, and $56,995 if you want all-wheel drive. The G70 in the rear-wheel drive platform comes in at a more economical $45,645 and $47,650 for the all-wheel drive model. Both of these cars require an extra $2,000 if you want all-wheel drive. The price difference between these two cars in the rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive platforms are $9,350. $9,350 is actually a pretty big chunk of change if you ask me. But the nice thing both of these cars offer is all-wheel drive for those that use these cars all year round. Included in the price is a warranty, of course. The BMW has a 4-year 50,000-mile bumper-to-bumper and powertrain warranty, while the G70 has the standard Hyundai 5-year 60,000-mile bumper-to-bumper warranty and 10-year 100,000 miles for the powertrain. The Genesis G70 offers a better warranty when compared to the BMW M340i. It extends over the BMW's bumper-to-bumper warranty by 1 additional year and 10,000 miles, and more than doubles the BMW powertrain warranty by continuing to offer one of the best warranties in the car industry. One item to note is that both of these warranties also include scheduled maintenance. Now let's look at the exciting and fun stuff, the engine, horsepower, and torque. The BMW M340i comes equipped with the stout 3-liter turbocharged inline 6-cylinder engine, generating an impressive 382 horsepower and 369 foot-pounds of torque, mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission with paddle shifters. It's amazing how a regular 3 Series now has almost 400 horsepower. Moving to the Genesis, the G70 has a 3.3-liter twin turbocharged V6, making 365 horsepower and 376 foot-pounds of torque, and again, the Genesis is mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission with paddle shifters. The BMW bests the Genesis by 17 horsepower, but on the flip side, the Genesis has 7 more foot-pounds of torque when comparing to the BMW. The BMW and the Genesis come in with pretty similar engine outputs, but there are two key differences in their engines. Even though both of these cars are turbocharged, the BMW has a single turbo setup, while the Genesis is a twin turbo. And the other is that the Genesis has a V6 engine, while the BMW is equipped with a inline 6-cylinder. The next category will be acceleration. The BMW in the rear-wheel drive format accelerates to 60 miles an hour in 4.4 seconds, and if equipped with the all-wheel drive, the number is shaved by 0.3 down to 4.1, which are indeed pretty impressive numbers by the BMW. Now the Genesis. The G70 accelerates to 60 in 4.5 seconds in the rear-wheel drive layout. I couldn't find anything published on the Genesis website about the all-wheel drive layout, but I saw some numbers floating around on the internet ranging between 4.4 and 4.6 seconds, so I'm going to split the difference here and go with 4.5 seconds. When comparing rear-wheel drive acceleration, these two cars are pretty equal, 4.4 versus 4.5, but when you look at the all-wheel drive equipped trims, the BMW leaps ahead by almost half a second, 4.1 versus 4.5. Since we just looked at the power and acceleration, now let's look at the weight. The BMW in the rear-wheel drive platform comes in at 3,849 pounds, in the all-wheel drive layout coming in at 3,968 pounds. The Genesis G70 on the other hand comes in a little bit lighter at 3,774 pounds in the rear-wheel drive layout and 3,887 pounds when equipped with all-wheel drive. So the Genesis G70 is the lighter car by 75 and 81 pounds for the rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive layouts respectively. This is interesting because the BMW is faster than the G70 while still being heavier. Maybe the engine in the BMW is making more than the advertised 382, but who knows, BMW's been pretty notorious for doing that. Now let's look at fuel efficiency. The BMW comes in with a rating of 22 in the city, 30 on the highway, for a combined average of 25 and a fuel tank size of 15.6 gallons. These efficiency ratings apply to both the rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive models. In the Genesis, it's a little different. The rear-wheel drive G70 gets 17 in the city, 26 in the highway for a combined average of 20 and a fuel tank of 15.8 gallons. The difference is that the all-wheel drive in the G70 gets 1 mile per hour less on the highway compared to the rear-wheel drive platform. The M340 achieves better fuel efficiency by bettering the G70 in all categories, city, highway, and combined fuel economy, while almost matching its fuel tank size 15.6 to 15.8. Next, let's look at the interior dimensions of the M340 and the G70. Here's a chart showing the front and rear headroom, legroom, and shoulder room. One of the bigger complaints about the G70 has been about the interior space, specifically for the rear passengers, and we see it translating to these numbers as the BMW offers more space in both headroom and legroom versus the Genesis. The BMW 3 Series has been growing over the years and it's showing its interior room prowess against the G70. One other obvious item here is that both of these cars have a max seating capacity of 5 people. Coattailing off of interior room, now let's talk about cargo space. Here's the chart showing the BMW coming in with 17 cubic feet of storage space and the G70 with 10.5 cubic feet for a difference of 6.5 cubic feet. To highlight the difference here, the BMW M340i can carry 4 more standard airline carry-on bags compared to the G70. Cargo space is another area where the G70 really struggles against the BMW, and it ties in with the interior dimensions as things that consumers are complaining about the most. Now let's quickly glaze over the exterior dimensions of these two cars. Here's a chart showing the length, width, height, and wheelbase. The BMW is the longer car, but the G70 is wider and sits a little bit lower. I'm not surprised by this because when you see these two cars in person, it's apparent that the G70 is definitely a little bit wider and has more of a hunkered down look. Alright, next let's look at the features in these two cars. First, I'm going to start off with the popular similarities because these two cars have a lot in common, and then I'll highlight the differences. So both the M340 and the G70 have limited slip differentials, sport tuned suspensions, they both have sport brakes. The G70 has Brembo brakes while the M340 has the BMW branded M Sport brakes. They both have LED headlights, they both have rear view cameras, they both have memory seats, navigation, and also have drive mode selectors where you can customize settings such as sport, rain, eco, etc, etc. They both have keyless entry and go, along with the ability to open your trunk without a key. And finally, they both have split folding rear seats. Now let's talk about the differences. The Genesis G70 has leather seats, while the BMW seats are covered in this pseudo leather called Sensatec. The G70 has a 15-speaker radio from Lexicon. The BMW has a 10-speaker system. Not sure what that really means. Typically, more speakers don't translate to better audio quality, but just pointing it out. Next, the BMW has a bigger infotainment screen, 8 inches versus 10.25. The BMW has digital gauge clusters, and the G70 is a traditional analog cluster. There are heated and cooled seats in the G70 as standard, while optional in the BMW. The BMW has rain sensing automatic wipers while optional in the G70, and the Genesis has a blind spot warning system and the BMW is marked that as optional. Next, let's look at the colors. The BMW M340i comes in with 8 different colors, only one of which is a no-cost option, Alpine White. Otherwise, BMW does a good job with offering a wide spectrum of colors to appeal to all audiences. The one thing I noticed is that BMW doesn't offer a green color in pretty much any of their cars. You have to go to their individual customization program in order to get a green BMW, which I'm pretty bummed about, but not everyone is like me and likes green on a car, so I understand BMW. The Genesis G70, on the other hand, does offer a green exterior paint. It's called Black Forest Green, and it looks okay. It's not the best, and it's also not the worst. Beyond the green, Genesis offers the G70 in a total of 9 different colors, and again, like the BMW, there's a nice mix to keep everybody happy. And that's the end of this comparison. Just some final thoughts to close out the video. I think Genesis made a valiant first effort with the G70. When you're making a car like the G70 that's going into a extremely competitive segment, you have to be strategic with what you want to attack or excel at. The G70 offers similar power and acceleration at a price point that comes in at almost $10,000 cheaper than the BMW. One area where the Genesis delivers is the warranty with its 10-year 100,000 mile powertrain warranty, which is important when you have these types of high-powered engines. The Genesis also offers a lot of standard features where the BMW marks them as optional, so the Genesis makes a compelling argument here. But it's not all roses for the G70. Many reviewers have mentioned the lack of trunk space and rear passenger room the G70 has, as we saw in our charts as well. I suppose you can't have it all, and this goes back to Genesis being strategic with what they want to attack. The strength of the G70 is definitely value. The BMW, on the flip side, continues to deliver the best performance, efficiency, interior space, and some would argue even technology with the screens in the infotainment and gauge clusters. I'm not surprised, as BMW has been evolving the 3 Series for 45 years now, and as we look at these numbers on paper, and as many have said in their driving reviews, the BMW is still the king in this segment. Which one do you like best? Thanks for watching. Until next time, drive steady.